Everybody, how we doing? Sports fans, we are here. I'm one half of the College Blitz show, along with my buddy Russ from the Russ on Deck podcast, and we're joined today by my boy Will from the 305 Sports Now podcast. He's producing this thing today for us, helping us out. So, how's everybody doing?
Doing just fine, man. Just fine. Thank you so much for inviting me, Q, to come on the show. It's the first. It's one of many times we've been on together, man. So thank you. I love this opportunity to come on and talk Canes, talk a little recruiting. And Russ, man, first time meeting you, man. It's a pleasure to meet the baseball mind of the FTSN network.
Thanks, Will. Hey, Q, how we doing, man? It's been a couple weeks. Good to get back here. Will, nice to meet you. Like I told you before, I'm a baseball scout. So I've heard of you. Obviously, I knew your stuff. You're more Miami based. I was like, I saw the Dirty Cats. I'm not really a big hockey guy, but I'm like, I'm gonna watch a little, see what this guy is. I got to do a little scouting on you. It was all good stuff. I liked your takes, so I was like, hey, I like a little passion. I saw the piss F Canada, so I still, like I told Will, I kind of find it funny that like Tampa Bay won in 21, and now you got back from the Lightning, and like how much snow does Florida have?
Yeah, like I want to explain that, man. I tried channeling my inner Triple H. I'm a WWE fan as well, so I needed to go old Attitude Era with a little bit of the Evolution Triple H, where my face turns red and I sound like I'm really angry, which I really was, by the way. I was really upset and I had to let it out in general. So thank you so much for watching that episode, Russ. Yeah, no, did you say dirty dirty cat?
What's that? No, dirty rats, whatever. We do it. Funny thing is we have a junior college team in Southern California, and the Harbor was it Seahawks, but the baseball team goes by the Rats. So like they'll be like, no, it's the Rats because it's like San Pedro, Wilmington, which is very like tight family community. So they're the Rats. So dirty rats. All right. I'm sorry.
That's one of those names that's weird to be gives. Is that their given name? Is that like that's like their actual mascot name, like the actual team name, or is that a nickname? Russ, is it like what you're talking about?
No,
is that their given? That's their given name.
Oh, you're talking? No, that's. So
is that just a nickname for them?
The Seahawks, but the baseball team goes by the Rats.
Okay, like, but again, as a nickname though, not nickname. Yeah, okay, got it. Because I was about to say,
like the whole, like San Pedro, California, Wilmington, Long Beach, which is where Port a lot, like very like blue collar, really hard working.
I got you.
Like grinders, it goes together good.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was just wondering, man, because for that to be like the given name, right, of a team, I'd be like, I don't know.
And there's some weird high school names. Like I've been popping up like the high school names, and like it makes you like they say it like out in like the Midwest somewhere, and I'm like, that's a really weird name to give a high school team.
I'm one of those where. And I think I don't know how much you'll agree with this being the baseball guy. Some of the best nicknames for teams, mascot names, nicknames, whatever it is, however it is you want to classify them, is minor league baseball.
Oh
team.
Yeah.
They have the best nicknames around, and minor league baseball does such a great job of naming these, and they change like all the time, right?
You see them all the time.
There's some teams that like the Durham Bulls and those teams with really big long histories in terms of minor league baseball. But then there's a lot of these teams that just year to year they'll change based on like one promotion, right? Like they're tailoring it to like one promotion, and then like they'll change around like their uniform, color scheme, mascot, everything to just a different name.
One minor league like Pittsburgh affiliate changed like their whole team for Livy Dunn for one night.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
they should probably do a better job making a better like product on the field for her boyfriend who's like a superstar in the
MLB. Paul Skeens, right?
Skeens is a good. I scouted him in high school, and he was one of the nicest guys. I mean, talking to him, I'm like, you're 17, and he's like straight can talk to him like you're talking to an adult. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Guy who went to the Air Force, but like,
Oh, really?
that's kind of weird. Like maybe we should focus our efforts on putting a better product on the field when you got one of the best young pitchers in baseball, as opposed to.
Yeah. So two things on that. One, when you suck, right, you have to live in the margins. Right? It's like that's what happens, right? Like when you suck, you have to make other things attractive.
Yeah.
Livy Dunn is attractive.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I guess I'm not breaking any news here, right? I'm not breaking any news here. No disrespect. I'm just saying, right? Like that's an easy sell. Hey, let's base this thing around Livy Dunn.
Dude, that was a very gentlemanly way of saying she's hot. I mean, let's be very, very blunt.
I am
nothing wrong.
I am just simply trying to be respectful.
Yes.
She is obviously not terrible to look at.
No,
One, two. I would imagine Paul Skeens, if you're scouting him, probably a really easy scouting job right there. I would imagine, right? Like every box checked, or no? Like
honestly, in high school, he was very good in high school, but he wasn't a top guy in high school. He was kind of like in between. Really got good his senior year. Was a very good catcher, but he's like 6'4".
Yeah, he's huge. He's a big dude.
So like his senior year, he was only pumping like 92 top. Maybe hit like 96, but consistent 92. And then by his senior year, bigger schools started getting into him, and people wanted to draft him, but he was dead set on going to the Air Force. Like he's come out and said, I'm pretty sure after he retires, he's going back to serve in the Air Force. Because he's like, I want to serve my country. They've given a lot of me. I'm going to go back. So like he really popped off his senior year, but like knowing his background, like straight edge guy, like really easy to talk to, but like massive. His thighs were.
Yeah. No, you can say he's a big dude. One, two, you can see how much power he kind of produces from that lower half, right? I mean,
this guy hit batted like 330 his freshman year at Air Force, which not. I mean, the competition's a little worse, but it's still playing D1 baseball.
Of course.
So, but I mean, I'm like, please, this guy's like could be generational, and we're putting no talent on the field for him. So I'd get a little pissed. But going into football, Q, I know we're here to talk a little Hurricanes, so we can get into that. We all love talking college football, so kick us off.
Well, man, listen, I thought it was a good time to get on and, bring on my Miami brethren, who's, you can tell by the background, is where he resides, obviously. So, he's going to come with a, with a certain, a view on things and a guy who stays, pretty well connected down there in the Miami content creating community and talk a little bit of this, University of Miami football recruiting, man. June was, I think most people would agree, I think it was a great month, right? And we're looking at, from the very beginning, of the month and throughout, some guys, some big time guys, that committed, right? And so, we start at the very top, right? Let's first and foremost, let's go ahead and start with where we're at in terms of the class, right? A class that ranks 6th in the country.
Yep.
Right. A great class as of now when we're talking July 1st. And, obviously a long way to go before signing day. But you're looking at where you're at in terms of the landscape of college football. You're looking at it and you're going, okay, I like being a top 10 class right now. They're at number 6, right? They're number 6 in the composite. And June was, I would say, fruitful, right? If I'm being honest, right? You're looking at, you start at the very top, and we'll jump around a little bit, in terms of the order of these guys, but you've got a guy in, at linebacker, 3-star kid Justin Edwards, who they flipped from Rutgers, and a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, you flipped them from Rutgers, right? But when you really take a look at this kid, the size, right? 6'1", 205, right? Again, like I said, a 3-star kid, right? But he's an 89, in the, the composite. So right at, just a borderline 4-star kid, but a guy who, kind of across the board at all the camps he's gone, the guy is just a monster athlete. The guy's kind of tested, just off the charts, and a guy who they identified, right, had, in terms of, the position, I think a position that they've kind of lacked a little bit in terms of, really landing, elite guys. I think they identified this kid, they fell in love with him, and they got him to flip. But a kid that I can see his senior season, at the end of the senior season, I should say, really being a national recruit and a guy who I have no issue, assuming who that will be a 4-star come signing day.
Yeah, his measurables are also very good. Aside from this, when we talked about his skill set and the way he tests, he runs a 4.4, high 4.4, and that's very rare for a guy his size. Usually those linebackers run 4.5, 4.6. He runs a 4.4, so sideline to sideline, he's an absolute missile and he's dangerous. He's also very long as well. He has a good wingspan, which is something that Heatherman likes. He likes those long, speedy, athletic linebackers. So he's going to fit in very nicely with what Heatherman wants to do with the defense. He's going to fit in very nicely with what Miami wants out of their linebacker crew as well. So that was a very good pickup for Miami. I know it's Rutgers, still a Big Ten school. Rutgers strong defensively. Greg Schiano as well. Corey Heatherman background there as well. So I'm not surprised that we picked them up and we were able to flip them. So I'm very happy that we got them. As well. That was pretty much the jump start for what June was. And like you said, June has been a very good month, especially early June has been a very good month for Miami.
You look at and we talked about it before, right? Anytime somebody commits, right, there's several factors and things that I look at in terms of, the commit themselves, right? What are you getting in terms of the commit? Then I'm also looking at the position, right? Because again, some positions are a little bit more important cycle to cycle, depending on the team. And then also, where are we getting them from, right? Along with an offer list, right? Because again, when you land guys, okay, who else wants this kid, right? But when you're looking at where he's from a school like Edgewater in the Orlando area, who tends to be a University of Florida stronghold, right? So it's something that you look at and say, again, position of need, right? Because then they have to continue to stack talent at the position. And a school like Edgewater in an area that tends to be an FSU, Florida, type of stronghold, a school that's been traditionally a school that's kind of a pipeline school to again, those schools, further north. So again, man, when you look at the commitment, you really have to like what you see. And obviously at 205, a kid who, from everything I've seen, is going to continue to gain weight. But the measurables, man, when you look at the testing and everything like that, like you mentioned, man, a kid who runs a 4.4 at linebacker, I think he still has some room to grow, some room to put some healthy weight on him, so by the time he sees a field, he's probably closer to that, 220 range, that you'd like for him to be at in order for him to play linebacker and be able to play the run and the whole deal. But again, overall, you really have to like the pickup for the University of Miami.
Let's remind the viewers, these guys they just finished their junior season. So you're like, exactly. Oh, he's only 205 pounds. They just finished their junior season. Exactly. They have yet to play their senior year. Exactly. So they play their senior year. They're going to get a little bit bigger because they hit the weight room harder. The body develops a bit more. And then when the season's over and they start, whether they enroll early or even if they come into summer, you will see a different player by the time the season starts. I'll give you an example. Okay. Marquise Lightfoot. Marquise Lightfoot was a thin kid. Okay, well, the main reason why he couldn't get on the field last year, he's just a thin guy. If you saw him in 2024 spring game, when I shook his hand and met him personally, and you saw him in spring game in 2025, it's a different young man. Okay, yep. He's physically bigger. So that's what you're going to get with Edwards. He has the measurables, and, he's wide and stuff like that, where he could gain the weight. I project to be like 220 by the time he hits the field of the University.
That would be my guess. And I think you're looking at, again, the very obvious things, right? You're going to get into, your senior year, you're going to finish that. Hopefully you want all your guys to early enroll, right? Because the earlier they're on campus, the earlier they're going to get into your weight program, the earlier they're going to get into a meal program, the earlier they're going to be able to be around, the not only the weight staff, but the strength and conditioning staff, everybody who's going to be able to guide them, the right way and be able to start that healthy weight gain process. But again, I think, a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's only a 3-star. You're going to get kind of caught up in the stars. But I think a kid that when you look at the film and the way this kid moves and everything like that, man, the total package, I think you have to be really excited for what you have in the kid.
You got to also think like you're going off of, you said you took him from Rutgers. Hopefully he makes it. You never know with the landscape of the NCAA now. Hopefully he makes it to campus. The way the landscape of college football going, now we see a lot of true power from those 4 teams, and especially in the Big Ten. You got to assume at some point Rutgers is going to turn it around, and they're identifying it. You got Chiano's been around. So to steal a guy from the Big Ten to come to Miami's Big Two to try to, when he gets to campus, help bolster that defense, which we saw last year was definitely a weak spot. But stealing them from the Big Ten, I mean, you got to think that's pretty solid pickup. Hopefully he makes it. Never know with these kids, but
yeah,
I think pretty solid.
Yeah, 100%, man. Again, overall, time will tell, right? There's still a long way, to go before early signing day. But again, end of the day, man, the position and where the University of Miami has been in the very recent past with the position, I think you really have to like that, the staff identified this kid, he's a fit in Heatherman's system, and a system where more often than not, from everything we've seen, you're going to really only play two true linebackers, right? Everything I'm hearing, everything I'm seeing, they're talking about a 4-2-5, right? So, the guys that are going to be playing are guys that you're going to need to be able to run, to be able to cover, running backs, be able to cover tight ends, be able to cover slot guys if they're called upon. So I think it just all fits, into the system and the mindset that they're going to have with new DC Corey Heatherman.
Sorry about that, Russ. Go ahead.
And like you said, I'm still trying to get the Florida landscape of high school sports in general. But as like Q said, going into enemy territory for a school that usually is a Florida State, and you steal a guy from pretty much their territory, that's pretty solid. That's pretty big.
Yeah. Again, those are pipeline schools. Like, Edgewater, is traditionally they're not only are they a power, but they're also a pipeline school, for those 2 schools like we're talking about. So again, you have to be happy about landing the kid. Also I'm seeing there a comment from Josh Wingate. Well, it's we'll talk. I don't want to go left. I don't want to go left right here, Josh. Settle down.
Josh is poking the bear.
He is actually.
We'll talk. We'll get some more discussion on that one. But let's stay on track and stay on defense with another commit that they got that they landed on June 22nd, and a kid by the name of Ashari Charles. This is a kid from Venice, Florida. They have him listed as an athlete, but the kid who's I'd call him an edge. He's 6'2", 230, so not huge in terms of height, but a kid he's a 4-star commit. He's the 147th player nationally, number 15 at his position, a guy who holds major offers from all over the place, and a kid who they're really happy to land a productive kid. Like I said, not a kid who's 6'5", 6'6", but the commitment is definitely one that I'm happy with.
Yeah, 13.5 sacks, 20 quarterback hits as well, 15.5 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. Yeah, he's a young man that's a beast. All right, basically he's a ball hawk. He's a guy that can that will get to the quarterback, basically wreck shop. Similar to a Ruben Bain. Ruben was a total freak in high school. Okay, but similar. What I mean by that is that about the same height as Ruben was coming out of high school. Okay, Ruben Bain's about 6'2", hence the reason why he can never get that 5th star. So Ashari does bring that to the table. He brings speed, he brings athleticism as well, and he brings a heavy track record in going after the quarterback, which is what Miami likes. Miami likes their guys to be fast on the edges, wreak havoc, especially in passing situations, and they like their interior guys to disrupt the interior and stop the run as well. So I like this pickup. This is a good pickup, all right, as well. Great recruiting being done by D-Lou and JT over there in the defensive line staff. We're both defensive line coaches, so this is a great pickup. This is something that Miami wants. Miami is loaded with defensive ends, and this is just adding depth to that position as well with this recruiting class.
And coming from from knowing a little bit, being in this area, coming from a winning program, that Venice just won the state 2024. Was it 7A's top? I think in Florida.
Yeah, 7A is a top classification.
I mean, they won
in
the state title in 2024, so he's bringing a winning pedigree, being on a winning team. So that's also a good pickup to bring to your program.
100%. Yeah, we're staying on the defense, right? We just talked about Ashari Charles. They've also landed here recently defensive tackle by the name of Anthony Kennedy. This kid is huge, 6'3.5", 334 pounds. He's out of Little Rock Central in Arkansas, and a kid who obviously smack dab in the middle of SEC country. And the biggest thing with this kid, and from what I've seen, is obviously 4-star kid, but like we talk about, right, body types, right, and this is a body type that when you look at the Miami roster, this is a body type they're lacking. Will just touched on it. Great at defensive end, right? There's defensive end for days, and that defensive end rotation this year is going to be legit. I would venture to guess with the combination of Jason Taylor along with Damian Lewis and the scheme, I'd venture to guess that this is a defense that the ends are really going to show out, I would figure, right? And when you're looking at an Anthony Kennedy, obviously a true defensive tackle, but again, a body type that they are lacking on this roster, a true run stuffing, they call, right, a war daddy, right? You put him right in the middle of this defense, and he's going to help you be, in the top, where you want to be in terms of run defense, right? In the conference, nationally, this is a guy that linebackers love, right? Because he's gonna eat up, blocks and everything like that, and let those guys, at the linebacker position run and make tackles and the whole nine. So as soon as I saw the commitment, saw the measurables, and I was definitely pretty happy about it because again, they need more of this type of body type at this position on this roster.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a great pickup. He's a guy that's going to eat blocks. He's going to be very serviceable to the guy next to him as well. The linebackers are really, really, really going to have a lot of success with having him in the lineup. The only big body I could think of Q, if you think of another guy that we have, is Ahmad Moten. That's about it from what I understand. Everybody else is pretty undersized.
Artavis Jones comes to mind. Artavis Jones comes to mind.
He's over 300 pounds. You're right.
Exactly. So a big kid, right? But a kid who was playing 1A football, right, in the Panhandle, and a kid who I think by all accounts had a little bit of trouble kind of transitioning, from that 1A football to, obviously major college football. Yeah. So a kid who, again, highly recruited, but a kid who I think they're excited about and, get him healthy and to see, whether he can contribute, right? I mean, this is the year, man. You're looking at this NIL era and the transfer portal era, and you have to start looking realistically at anybody, especially highly recruited kids who haven't produced after year two. You really have to, take a hard look at it and go, are you cut out to be here? On the team side of things and on the player side of things, you have to start the question, okay, do I want to be here? Should I stay here? Should I, look for, a different team and a different program? And I think this is year for Artavis Jones, right? Not to place, any undue pressure on him, but this is a position that they need people, right? When you're looking at your top, your Justin Scotts, your Armando Blunts, your Ahmad Motens, right? Your, David Blay. I think by and large, from everything you hear, they're really happy with the top four. They're really happy with that rotation, of about four. But after four, I think there's a lot of opportunity there for snaps, right? And granted, your DT5 isn't going to be a guy who's going to rack up the snaps, but I think a guy who can contribute depending on, the game and everything like that. And God forbid, any injuries happen, then it's a guy you're going to expect to go from a DT5 who's playing, 10, 12 snaps a game, possibly, to a guy who now is playing upwards of 20 snaps, right? So, you're looking at a guy like Artavis Jones and you're going, hey, man, look, second year in the program. He's definitely got the body for it. A guy who's just a big dude, big, sturdy, guy who looks like he's ready, but you got to stay healthy, right? And you got to be able to contribute. So, again, that you going back to the original, commitment with with Anthony Kennedy, man, you really got to be excited, because of the position and because of the body type.
I mean, I like guy who recruited him, who knows D linemen, obviously, Jets legend Jason Taylor. I know. I'm like, Bobby, please listen.
No, hey, Bobby, if you're listening.
No, he's not a Jets legend. I don't care if you shouted that stupid acronym when Mason got drafted.
Bobby, don't end the stream.
I mean,
Russ, no, I can end the stream.
Hey, Bobby's,
don't pull the plug, Bobby or Will. Don't pull the plug.
Bobby's every time I jump on, and Bobby, I hate the Dolphins. He's told me he hates the Jets too. I'm like, I don't care. It's just
I hate the Jets too.
That's legend. So disrespectful.
It's sports at the end of the day.
It is. Oh, you're absolutely right. But Laura and I had the same conversation. The other day we're talking about sports. I mean, who cares? Yeah, Russ.
I like that. The guy knows D line. So
definitely. Oh, definitely.
This is what I will say, and Will may know where I'm going with this because we've had this conversation. The same way we talk about these guys, in year 2 in a program. Yeah. This is what I will say about Jason Taylor. All kidding aside, there's a DC change. There's an influx of talent at the end. The guys that were big time recruits last year, right? Another year or a year under their belt, I should say, right? Because they were freshmen last year. But I need to see Jason Taylor be more than just a recruiter. And I'm not saying it again. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not trying to, but for too long, since Jason Taylor's been there, right? From the time he was, he was, I don't know if he was a GA or an analyst.
He was an analyst.
And they got promoted. You're hearing, Jason Taylor, right? Jason Taylor's a guy, met him, super nice guy, right? And a guy who you could tell is what I've always said about him is my interpretation of Jason Taylor as a coach to this point in his career is a guy who is a relationship builder, right? He's a guy who's a good recruiter, right? He's a guy who you can tell, right, is a charming dude, is going to meet the parents, is, mom, I'm sure is going to be intrigued when she meets him. Oh my God, I had love for my kid to go play for Jason Taylor. Obviously not an ugly looking dude, right? The guy is a good recruiter. The guy is a relationship builder. What I need to see is the next step in his, coaching advancement and becoming a guy who is a good coach, right? Damian Lewis coming from Colorado, a guy who obviously, first round pick of the Rams in the NFL, guy who, played at a high level at Miami. You see what he did at Colorado last year. A defense who before he got there was atrocious. I mean, terrible. And he got there, and I think they were top 15 in defensive line pressure rate and the whole deal. He transformed that defense in one season, right? So I think hopefully you're looking at that and what Miami has. I would assume that they're going to be a more talented group than what he had in Colorado, right? And so hopefully that translates. But a guy who's now there's proof of concept, right? There's proof of what he's done as a coach, right? He showed up, the position group, got exponentially better. Still waiting to see that with Jason Taylor. And there again, there's a change in DC. There's a change in philosophy, right? There's a change in scheme. And so I think that an attacking defense, which is what Heatherman is supposedly going to run, is going to suit Jason Taylor's coaching style, right? I think for a lot of reasons, and last season was a disaster on defense. And I think a lot of it has to do with scheme. When you talk to, or when you listen to people talk about what it is that happened last season, a lot of it had to do with scheme. A lot of it had to do with it being complicated and, and stunting too much and not playing maybe the young guys that probably should have been, in the rotation, middle of the season and then kind of end of the season. Now they're playing meaningful snaps, because I think there was plenty of opportunity for those guys because the upperclassmen literally were doing nothing. But again, I think all that hopefully will contribute to showing what Jason Taylor is as a coach.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he could do it only because when he was at the high school level, at STA, he was a D coordinator and they won state championships. And again, on the relationship side, it was the hands-on work that he did with some of these young men like Marquise Lightfoot and Booker Pickett Jr. that kind of attract him to want to be coached by him in Miami. I think that nothing worked last season on defense. I think it was a scheme issue. I also think that, no offense to Chevis Jackson, great recruiter, not a very good coach on the back end as well. So I think that also kind of hurt the defensive line as well. But I agree with you, Q. The scheme, the defensive line didn't pressure that much. Ruben Bain, I don't think was fully healthy until more or less towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
so the defense was just a total disaster. But I do expect. Listen, man, it's kind of like bad. It's kind of like bad test scores, for school. You can only go up the following year.
Yep.
All right. And I think in Miami's case, you could only go up. You can't get any worse than what you were last season. And Corey Heatherman coached it, at a big time conference, several times as an assistant, as a D coordinator. Minnesota wasn't very good, made him a top 10 defense. He has more talent on paper this year at Miami, seems to understand the talent at Miami, a teacher himself, an educator, knows how you have to do some of this one-on-one instruction with some of your guys. He's in charge of the linebackers. That was an Achilles heel of the team last year as well. He's in charge of linebackers coach. We'll see what happens. But I do expect a much more complimentary football team this year than last year. Last year, the offense stole the show. I think this year you'll see more of a balance of the offense is going to be good and the defense is going to be good as well.
Yeah. Obviously don't disagree with any of that. The change has to happen quick, fast, and in a hurry. You saw that this defense last year, and obviously not breaking any news, but if the defense is remotely not awful, this team makes the playoff.
Yeah.
100%. Literally, they're remotely not awful and they make the playoff. So I think, this year, again, like I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, there's no Cam Ward, you didn't even make the playoff with Cam Ward. I think this year you're going to see a way more balanced team, so I think, that the defense will carry, their weight and they're going to pull their weight. I think it's going to be a way more balanced, type of team. And I think they're going to be, right there in it for a playoff spot. Moving on to the next recruit, we want to talk about, to continue the defensive theme of the early part of the conversation. A kid by the name of Tyson Bacon, defensive lineman, 6'3", 263. He's a borderline 4-star. He's a 4-star on the composite. Kid who, like I said, is out of Hoover, Alabama. And when you're looking at the recruit list, or I'm sorry, the offer list, I should say, everybody wanted this kid. When you looked at, who was in the running for Miami, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, right? And those, when I talk about offer lists, like this is what you want to see, right? Kid who is 4-star on some sites, 3-star on another, or on other ones. But that's the type of offer list, that you want to see. A kid who, like I said, at 263, you're looking at him and saying, all right, he may be able to gain some weight. He's a kind of a tweener right now, edge kid, right, who can kick inside. But I think as time goes along, a kid who, at his current weight, you can maybe see him, once he gets to Miami, them kind of little by little slide him inside. But from everything I've seen and heard about Tyson Bacon, a kid who plays at big time college or big time high school football, I should say, out of Hoover, Alabama, and a kid that they're really excited to land.
Yeah, I agree. I like him. I think he's a good balance to Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy is the big blocking. I blocks, I help linebackers, and I think Bacon is a guy that will take up more of the one-on-ones and be able to get to the running back or get to the quarterback in passing situations or in third and short situations for this short situations. I like this pickup. Hoover is a school that produces good football players. Alabama, I think, is an underrated state for the production of football players as well. So I do like this pickup. Very well scouted, long as well. So I think that helps out Miami quite a bit.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, you go into Alabama, you steal a guy, but I mean, you see Florida there, you see Georgia recruiting them, you see Alabama. I mean, Kirby Smart knows defense, so there's something that they were seeing too. So that's a good pickup.
Yeah, listen, when you have that type of the type of offer list that guy has, he's clearly a kid who's talented, right? I mean, you don't land those type of offers. It's not a random. It's not like Vanderbilt, one SEC offer or whatever. Again, when you're looking at the schools that offered them, Alabama, Georgia being, at the top of that list, along with Florida, who no matter what you think about them, obviously a team who's probably going to field a good defense this year, especially, you're looking at the defensive line, and there's some talent, that and traditionally they've produced, at that position. So, again, a guy who you got to be excited to land it, the position and the area where he's from. Not at all disappointed with the addition of Tyson Bacon to the class. We're moving over to offense now, and talking about some big time kids, and you start with a legacy at offensive line, and start with Cannon Pickett, 6'4", 320 kid out of the Tampa area at Tampa Bay Tech. His brother obviously is a defensive end for the University of Miami, and a kid who was super highly recruited. His father played at the University of Miami, a guy who was revered in his time at Miami, and a kid you got to love the size, 6'4", 320, a kid who had, before he committed, there was some predictions for him to land at Clemson, right? And so, again, offers from Alabama, Auburn, so on and so forth. So, for a lot of reasons, you got to be happy with this kid, and as an addition to the class at Miami.
Yeah, I love this pickup. First things foremost, he always wanted to be a Cane. I don't even know why they predict him going to Clemson. He said he had a good visit, and 247 decided to crystal ball him over there. That's pretty much what it was. But that's all it was just a good visit. I know Dabo was on him. I get it. I know Florida was on him as well. I get it. But it seemed like he really wanted to be a Cane, right? As well, he would wear UM shirts and interviews in other people's podcasts, right? So he wouldn't do that for any other school.
Yeah.
So
it was also, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was also, that streak, because Clemson, was on a heater.
Yes,
for a little
absolutely.
bit. So they have that one big recruiting weekend, right, where it's star-studded and the whole deal, and they had like 8 dudes commit in one weekend, right? So I think they just kind of grouped them into there, based on, he said like I don't know, the right thing or the wrong thing, depending on what side you're on. But he said one little thing on a interview, and they're like, oh, crystal ball.
Yeah.
But I also think, again, it was kind of in line with what was going on at Clemson at the time, and then also people just got kind of caught up and, oh man, they've landed everybody, where here goes another one. When I don't think across the board anybody that I ever saw that was that was in the know in terms of Miami was always like, whoa, nah. Like I don't know where I don't know where you guys are getting that from, but nobody on this side is hearing anything about that. So I think, absolutely. Again, I don't know that there was anything malicious about it. It was kind of one of those things. It was like everybody just got caught up in the moment. It's like every commit, and they're like, well, he's next, and it was that just was never the case. That was never reality. Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and take a look. My buddy Chalupa Batman, when he interviewed him about a year ago, he was wearing a Cane shirt in that interview, if I'm not mistaken. And that's way before he was even rumored to commit anywhere. So the kid grew up a Canes fan. He loved the school as well. So he was like that guy that you better not blow it, because he really wants to go to your school, as well. And Miami picked up. This kid is phenomenal. It's like he's light on his feet. Run blocking, nice kid. By the way, off camera, nice kid. Yes, sir. How are you? Nice to meet you.
From everything, I've seen a couple interviews with him, and he's super, super nice.
Yes.
Very, very. He was raised the right way. You could tell.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Put a helmet on that kid. Thank you, Armando. Appreciate it. Put a helmet on that kid. And it's Jason Voorhees with speed coming at you, man. Yeah. I only say that because he wears a very unique helmet at his school. Will maul you. He'll absolutely maul you. Okay. And you can't run stunts on him because he's very smart outside football IQ. He'll pick up the next defender rather easily. Pass. You could play him at tackle. You could play him at the interior as well. He's a plug and play offensive lineman. He's going to get on the field probably by at least his sophomore season. He'll get on the field. He's an absolute Russ. If you like film, you have got to watch this kid's huddle. He is an absolute nightmare for anybody that's a D end, because some of the top D ends in the country have gone up against this kid, and they look really bad. You know, they look really bad. Linebackers blitzing done. I mean, he on screens great. Okay, on pitch outs you could pull him as well. All right, you could pull him as well. I mean, he could stay in. He could stay in line and block, and your quarterback will have a time to make coffee in the backfield. Like, this was a great get for Miami.
Yeah,
Miami is doing something special with the line this year.
I'm a little.
I don't know what it is. Miami, I mean, maybe it's Miami always seems to, if they pan out or not, they can always recruit those big uglies and always get some big guys. They always do a good job with those O linemen.
They're recruited by a guy who's not such a big ugly in Alex Mirabal. It makes no sense. Like, anybody who's watching it who's never actually seen a picture of Miami's offensive line coach, it doesn't stand to reason. Like, he's hands down, he's probably the smallest college football coach in the country, more than likely. I don't know that there'd be a smaller. He's little, and especially at O-line. We're like, when you see him standing next to these dudes, you're like, there's no way this guy's their coach. Like, it makes no sense. Like, I remember when I first learned about this guy, I'm like, what the hell is that? I was like, that's an O-line coach? That makes no sense. That does not. I've never seen that before. Again, it's crazy. But the guy, anytime you hear anybody talk about him, all it is praise. All it is not only do they talk about his ability on the field, but they also talk about, you going back to, like Will mentioned, did you see it?
Yeah.
Did you see it? It literally makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like, he is little.
Looking down. I mean, yes. and to go a long way, like, to be an O-line coach and that small and still be able to, like, command respect of these guys.
Exactly. But also, I'm like, exactly. But you look at him, right? A guy who's got the education background, right? A guy who connect. You hear everybody talk about him, they rave about him, right? The way he connects with his players. A guy who they look at as a father figure. A guy who treats them with respect, who will let you have it, but also will praise you. And will point out what you're doing well also. So, the guy's just a really great balance, right? Of teacher, coach, father figure, right? All that just kind of rolled into one, and people just love the guy. They absolutely love him, but also, not to take away from just his ability as a coach. When you look at who he's coached, who he's put into the league, the resume speaks for itself, right? So, again, he may not be traditional in terms of size, but a guy who's more than earned his stripes, at the O-line coach position.
Yeah, he uses Penei Sewell a lot. As far as, like, he got Penei Sewell drafted, but a lot of his guys do get drafted regardless.
Yep,
their first, second, they do get drafted, or at least they sign free agent contracts.
Yeah.
As well. So he is putting guys in the NFL. Whether
100%.
Yeah. So and if all is success this year, Maui Noah will be a top 10 pick. In this year's draft.
Yeah, so. It's looking more and more like that's going to be the case. And again, this kid, Cannon Pickett, I'm a little bit surprised that he's still a composite 3-star. But I would imagine, before his senior season ends, I would imagine he'll be a pretty high level 4-star. And again, going back to what you're talking about in terms of getting these guys drafted come draft time, he's joining a class that they're gonna need to come in. It's going to be a big O-line class as of now. They're looking to add to it, and we'll talk about that. But it's a big O-line class as it stands because you're forecasting what's going to happen, come into the season, and you're looking at minimum 4 starters leaving, right? So, a big O-line class for a reason, and this is kind of one of the prizes of the O-line class for sure. Even if his his star rating doesn't necessarily prove that, right? He's not a guy like Jackson Cantwell or anything like that, number 1 player in the class, but a kid that I know, and from everything I've heard, that they're super excited to have landed.
It's all projection. I scouted baseball. It's all projection. One guy sees this, the other guy doesn't. It's I mean, and I scouted high school players, and like, oh, we think this guy's going to be great. You're all just projecting. I'm like, I see him as a 3-star, but he could come on the campus and blow the top off. It's all just, 1 or 2 guys see this, the other guy sees this. I mean, if you like the player, that's all the real.
Without a doubt. Trust me. Again, you go back to offer list, right? I mean, this isn't a guy being offered by the group of five.
I mean, he's got Charlotte, but I mean, you see Clemson.
Yeah. But all the
Florida as well.
Yeah, all the schools in the running, like the ones realistically, in the running for his commitment. Again, you talk about Miami, Clemson, but again, Florida, so on and so forth. I mean, again, this is a guy who people know who he is, right? This isn't a guy who is not known, or a guy without any name recognition. Again, this is a guy who, I think that's a technicality, the 3-star status. And I think come into the end of next season, I think he'll be very comfortably in the 4-star range.
It doesn't matter. 3-star or 5-star probably come on. You're going to come into that freshman meeting or a team meeting, and probably half the guys on the roster be like, yeah, I was the best high school football player on the team. I'm a 5-star. It's at the end of the day, I was my best player. Great. So was everybody else. So like 3-star, 5-star. It all that matters what he's going to do when he gets to campus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, 100% agree with you. Moving on here with the June commits, and staying on the offensive side of the ball, and you're looking at the tight end from, actually, let's stay in California, but let's go to receiver. Vance Spafford, kid who was a consensus 4-star wide receiver, 124th player in the country. The 12th rated receiver in the country, a kid who runs a laser verified, I think it's like a 4.38 if I'm not mistaken, a kid who on the 7-on-7 circuit is a killer. A guy who, I mean, legit inside or outside. I think this is a kid who, every school would like to have. And, not the least of which of all his prowess and everything, this is a kid who they flipped from Georgia, right? A kid who Georgia wanted to keep, by all accounts. This isn't somebody they just let go or whatever. I mean, this is a kid that when they landed, living here in Georgia, trust me, I know they were happy to have gotten this kid. He's from Orange County, California. And, a kid who I think Miami, the staff, I think, was a little bit, I think they were nervous, right? Because he canceled his official, right? Like me and Will were talking about, he canceled his official visit. And I think at that point, a lot of people had kind of checked out on him. They're like, well, you know what? If he canceled his official visit, then, what are the chances he's going to commit? Lo and behold, a week or two goes by, and, there's a little smoke about him flipping, and he does, and commits to Miami. I think this is a big time get at a position where, they've lacked a little bit of star power in terms of commitment. So, a big time get for the program.
Yeah, he's a great get. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
Orange County puts out some ball players. So, I mean,
yes, the whole state, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mission Viejo is not a D1 school. We go 1 through 7. I mean, they're not, but they still play very high level D2 football. And to go into, which like looking at the viewer list, Mission Viejo minus, Modern Day and St. John Bosco used to be still a USC,
pipeline. Pipeline.
And now going on the list, I'm like, USC is not even on the visit list on there. So, I mean, you go into Orange County, which I know I coached baseball in that area, the football, because they're still playing those big D1 teams in the spring, in the fall on non-conference. But, I mean, they still play some really good teams. You go into Mission Viejo, that is a great historically a very good football program. That's a solid get for Miami.
Yeah, he is also very good on special teams. He's blocked a couple punts as well, so you could use him on special teams.
I did hear that on one of the pods, man. They said this guy's like their weapon on kick and punt coverage. They line him up at end, and
he'll block that punt. Yeah, he's also not afraid to get messy. He'll block for you as well. He's got that Braxton Barrows in him, that he's not afraid to get dirty and drive a defensive back into the ground, if it requires it as well. So he's not just a flashy, fancy, diva-esque receiver. He's a blue collar guy, man. Well, he gets his yak yards.
Yeah.
As well. Go ahead, Will.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, brother. Like, and one of the things that to me you like to hear about a kid like that is a kid who's this highly recruited, right? And a guy who isn't, he's not Jeremiah Smith, right? In terms, he's not, 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds. Is a kid who's 5'11", 175, plays bigger than his measurables.
Yeah.
1 and 2 is anybody who contributes on special teams, I'm a fan of.
Yeah,
right, because I think that shows a willingness to be, you're a team first guy, right? Because I think
selfless player,
100%, right? You're selfless. You're a team first guy. You're a guy who does anything to win, and that right there, the fact that he contributes at that position, right? Because when you're looking at somebody, and they tell you, oh, a kid like this, right? Oh, he's a contributor on special teams. Oh, okay, well, he's a punt and kick returner. That's where my mind goes, right? Oh, he contributes. Okay, well, yeah, he's a returner, because he's the fastest guy on the field. Mm-hmm. But then when you're looking at, at people talking about what it is he does on special teams, you're like, oh no, he's blocking kicks on special teams. So that right there to me just takes him to a whole nother level, of a guy who I think is and I saw some clips of him, like, during 7-on-7 and during, his team season at Mission Viejo and everything. And he's a guy who is, he's not sitting on the bench, while his position group isn't on the field. And he's a guy who's cutting up with his teammates, who's super engaged. You can tell he's a guy who's well-liked and a guy who, again, man, that doesn't happen without being a team first guy, a leader, a guy who people look up to. So you hear stuff like that about a kid excelling in special teams, in that area of special teams, and you have to like what you have there.
I also like hearing that too, because that means he's smart. He knows probably coming in as a freshman, that might be the best way for him to get on the field.
Yeah,
is as a special. So he's not like, I'm a receiver, I'm nothing. He's like, I want to do anything to get on the field and help my team win. I really like when you brought up the blocking. I go back to, like, I love Larry Fitzgerald, and the guy was a great blocking receiver. I'm like, he's not like, oh, I don't get the ball, screw it. He's out. I'm out there. I'm gonna block for my guy, try to help get more yards to help my team win. So I mean, everything you're saying, I like everything that I'm hearing about this kid.
Yeah, the one thing about him too is that he's listed as going to be a slot receiver, but he could also play the boundary as well. His speed, he's fast enough where you could line him up on the edge, and he's able to blow the top off of anybody. And on my show, when I did my show when I covered his commitment, Santana Moss was about 5'9", 5'10", and there's no dispute that he was not a boundary receiver. All right, one of the best Miami's had. So and I think this kid coming out of high school is a better route runner than Santana was. So that just says a lot, about this young man. So you could line him up in slot if you want, which Miami's loaded with slot receivers. But if you can't get that other guy on the other side of the field, he could fill that mold rather easily. And he'll out if you don't jam this young man right off the bat, he's gone. And you put your safety in a very difficult position where he's going to have to move to the side of the field to cover this kid. And he's he's splitting coverages as well. As well, he's running between guys in his videos. He's going into traffic and catching the football. He's not afraid.
Yeah,
right. He's not afraid. Yes. Miami got himself a baller in this recruitment.
Is he on track scholarship like Santana Moss, or football scholarship?
I think no, but don't be surprised if he does both, because one of the things they did with Jackson is that he's also going to be on the track team as well. Okay. So would it be surprising if he runs track for Miami? No, so that's something. Yeah, that can happen.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's a stretch. I don't know. I don't pretend to know what his background is, just kind of on the track side of things. Obviously, he's got the speed to run track. I do know that. But also, again, just like Will was mentioning, this is a kid, when you talk about the comparison, right? Santana Moss was, a kid out of Carroll City who was just a talented kid, right? He was fast, talented, but he didn't have the polish of a Van Spafford. You look at this kid and what he does, whether, on his high school team or on the 7-on-7 circuit, this is a kid who knows how to run routes. He's fast, but you look at who his competition has been on the 7-on-7 circuit, right? You talk about raw 7-on-7 in Miami, and those guys loaded. They're loaded with top cornerback commits and everything, and he was over there killing these dudes, right? So you're looking at what he does, and then obviously at the high school level, right, and who he's playing, obviously not playing any slouches, right, like my man Russ knows, and because he knows that area of football. So on both ends, right, you're not looking at this kid and going, he's only speed, right, or he's only, he's the guy, he's a finesse kid or whatever. It's for the guy checks off a lot of boxes, right? He's not huge, plays bigger than his measurables, a kid who's team first, and a kid with polish already, a kid who knows how to run routes, he knows the receiver position, and a kid who knows how to get open. More than just, I'm going to run right by you, right? This is a kid who can read a defense, it looks like, who can find a soft spot in that defense, who can beat one-on-one coverage. So whether it's man coverage, whether it's zone coverage, I think this is a kid who's going to get on the field early and produce at Miami.
I like the Santana Moss there. I got good memories of Santana Moss with the Jets, so I like that.
I met him, by the way. I want to let you know something, Russ. I met him when I was at FIU. I was a reporter
He
and
finds
radio
a way
guy there.
to-
Yeah.
A radio guy there, and his cousin Greg, who by the way coaches now at Florida State, introduced us because he used to work out with when in the offseason work out with the FIU football team. He hated the New York media with a passion. He said, "I don't talk to those people." Now he's in media right now.
You have to have a really tough skin to.
He hated the New York media. Nice guy who'll talk to you, but I asked how I feel about the New York media. He goes, "I don't know. I don't talk to them." So he told me. But that's why I know how tall he was. He was shorter than me. He's about 5'9", 5'10" on a good day, and he was. You can argue that he wasn't a true number one for those Canes teams. So putting Vance wouldn't be
a legend nonetheless.
Would it be? Yeah, he definitely was. Putting Vance outside wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. You got to be happy with with the commit kind of just across the board. When I saw it happen again, the smoke had begun. I was like, and then when I saw it happen, I was like, man, that's a really nice pickup, man. Moving on, saying in the state of California, tight end Israel Briggs. This kid is 6'4.5", 200 pounds. I've seen some different reports on him. That, his height is kind of everywhere, not all over the board, but I've seen as short as 6'4.5". I've seen him as tall as 6'6". Pretty much across the board, he's 200 pounds. The number 70 player nationally, number 6 at his position, and a kid who, I guess the only thing you look at in terms of from everything I've seen is, just the competition, right? Is a kid who does it all on the field for his high school football team. He plays receiver, plays tight end, plays defensive end, plays linebacker, right? Like he does it all. He's just kind of in that classification of football, right? Where, he's obviously the very best player on his team, most talented player on his team, and has the ability, basically just to play all over the field based on the competition that he plays. But that hasn't affected his status, in terms of the type of recruit he is. He's a composite 4-star kid, the number 6 tight end in the country. And he picked Miami over LSU on his commitment the other day. So a kid who I know they're really excited to land at the tight end position. And obviously, Cody Woodiel continues his streak of top tight end recruits for the University of Miami.
Yeah, he's a flex, man, all around.
Yep.
He's a flex. He's gonna be a flex tight end. Dangerous in the red zone. Not afraid to use his body. As far as making a play on the ball as well. Very difficult to cover because of his height as well. So again, a guy likes to go through traffic. Good up the middle. Could go up the middle, catch a football, get you some yak yards as well. So I like this pickup. I think he'll be very serviceable, especially in the red zone area, where I think he'll be the most dangerous of his talents.
Yeah, you have to look at him, right? And again, anywhere from 6'4.5" to 6'6", right? Definitely going to be a move type of tight end, right? I can't imagine he's ever going to be an inline type of tight end, but a kid who runs well, a kid who can go up and catch the ball, definitely going to be a mismatch for any safety that he's going to play. I would imagine it's somebody who, by the time he gets on the field, they're probably going to want him somewhere in that probably 220 range, and he's got the frame for it. But when he does get on the field, I think this is a kid who quarterbacks are really, really going to like throwing to. I think he's going to be a weapon. And I think that when you look at what Shannon Dawson does with his tight ends, I think a kid who's going to fit seamlessly in this offense, and I think a guy who's going to put up numbers at Miami.
Agree.
Staying, Russ, this area any? I don't know if you've seen what's so he plays at Redwood. But the city is it Visalia? Is that how you pronounce it?
Visalia, yeah, that's Central Valley.
Okay.
So they break it up. It'll be like Northern California, Southern section, Central Valley will play. That's like, Bakersfield, Fresno will play. So I don't know that area as much.
Any good football being played up that way or no?
Good. There's some good teams that way. I mean, you'll find good teams everywhere in California. So there's definitely Central Valley doesn't have as many as Northern California or Southern California, but there's definitely some good, like San Luis Obispo, Bakersfield always had. Kern County's always pretty good at many sports. Fresno.
Nice.
good sports, not great air quality, but
I figured, so down in the valley, you're not staying away from any of the smog.
Bakersfield, Fresno. I don't know recently, but at one point was rated the worst air quality in the United States.
Damn.
From so much smog. And when like you drive in, like driving in from Vegas, you get to like San Bernardino, you drive in, and there'll just be like a layer of, and you think it's fog, and it's just a layer of smog.
Damn. Ooh. That's not good, bro. That's not good. Listen, I went to, my brother lived in Fresno for a couple years, and when he first moved out there, like I got out there, helped him move and everything. When he first got out there, I was like,
yeah,
Fresno.
Yeah, that's correct.
So this is Fresno, huh?
I mean, Fresno's produced some good ball players. I mean, Devontae Adams, Derek, and David Carr are both from
Fresno State.
I mean, they're both from the area. So I mean, they've produced some players.
Yeah, the area itself, in terms of beauty, stuff to do, stuff like that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, very nice people. Shout out to the people in Fresno. If you're watching, I'm just saying, not a destination,
not a
necessarily.
vacation spot,
not a vacation spot, right? We're not. There's no resorts in Fresno that I'm really looking to visit, anytime in the near future. So again, but very, very nice people. Had a nice time when I was in Fresno.
When I don't know if I was flying back to California, and the guy next to me, he's like, "Oh, first time in LA." He's all pumped up. I'm like, "Oh, where are you staying?" He goes, "Riverside." I'm like, Riverside, California is like Palm Springs, almost Moreno Valley.
Yeah, that's not LA, right?
Nowhere near LA. I'm like, I didn't want to dampen his mood, but I'm like, dude, you're like 3.5 hours away from LA.
That's like saying you're going to Miami, be like, where are you staying? Orlando.
Yeah.
That's not Miami, brother. You better hope you rented a car, because you're going to need it.
Because I'm in Bradenton, so Tampa area, and when you look at the map, we're pretty close, and it's only like 2 hours. But then you try to drive down, and you're like 3.5. Even going to Orlando's, same thing with the nightmare. I'm like, it's not that far. You hit that traffic, it just lengthens.
Orlando traffic, dude. I was there this past November. Went down there for my daughter's birthday, because her mom and stepdad and siblings and stuff, they live in the Orlando area. And brother, that traffic
especially.
My God. Yo, that traffic is ridiculous.
Yeah, I-4 is horrible.
It's ridiculous down there. The traffic, and they're not even in Orlando, like in Orlando, like proper. They're where they have not Fontana, like somewhere around there. Like they're like 30 minutes, kind of like southwest, I guess, maybe, of downtown Orlando. But going out there to like the parks in downtown Orlando, I mean, dude, that thing took it's like 25 miles, and it took like over an hour every time that we were going out there. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is there and there's nothing special. There's nothing special going on. It's just the normal flow of traffic.
I got the best traffic going to Orlando. When we had Hurricane Milton, I had my sister's my brother-in-law's sister lived in Orlando, so we're gonna ride it out that day, and then they call Category 4, so like, we'll go to Orlando. Nobody on the road. I'm like, we picked the perfect time, because if you're trying to leave like from Monday to Thursday, you're sitting in like 8-hour traffic. Nobody on the road. All the toll roads closed down. We saw like 6 people the whole time, but we were trying to flee the hurricane. But it was a perfect time to get away at the last minute, because we got no traffic. But I'm not expecting that the next time I go to Orlando.
No. That's few and far between, man. That's hurricane type, traffic, and people, they're sheltering and trying to stay off the roads, which is a good thing.
I had some people in my apartment who stayed, and they're like, "Oh, it was fine, but it was like 120 mile per hour wind." I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't want to be here."
I wouldn't want to stay. I wouldn't want to stay in an apartment during 120 mile per hour winds, man. I've been in some hurricanes. I remember Andrew very vividly, August 24th of '92, and I remember that like it was yesterday. And You talk about an uncomfortable experience right there for sure, because that thing hit at night and you couldn't see anything outside, and you just hear that wind howling and everything going on outside. Man, that's not fun. I can't imagine staying in an apartment, 3rd, 4th, 5th floor, something like that or higher. That's not where you want to be.
I've been to
stuff like that.
Honestly, there's one hurt. I've been through earthquakes. I went through Northridge. I lived in Van Nuys, which is right by Northridge. So I went through that one, and that wasn't fun. I mean, I was young, but like it just sounded like a jackhammer for like 6 hours. I've been through the scariest thing for me is tornado warnings. I lived in Nashville, and they usually call 5% it's going to hit. The guy called 10%, and even my brother was like freaking out. We're sitting there like getting ready to run into the closet if you hear those warnings, but it's just like scary because they can jump state from state, but like when it's about to hit, everything goes dead silent.
Exactly.
So you're just like you just hear crickets and nothing else. So you're like, oh,
no, thank you.
As hell.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on a tornado. I've been really lucky. Thank God I've been lucky to not ever be caught in a tornado, and I'd be happy if that streak continues for a really long time.
My wife when I went through the AP reads, when I was in Kansas City, my wife was in Colombia, and they had an earthquake in Bogota. Yeah, they had an earthquake. It was my son's first earthquake, and the building was moving. The building was moving, and it's the apartment is well structured though. They do a good job over there in Colombia. And my son is so funny. My son's like, "What happened?" Yes, he's 5. He's innocent. He's like, "What happened?" The building was moving. And he goes, "And what were you doing?" "Watching Blippi."
Oh my God! Unbothered with that show, Will.
Yeah.
My nephew obsessed with that show right now.
Yeah, he fluctuates though. He'll watch Blippi, then now it's Paw Patrol, then it's Sonic, then it's Spider-Man. Like he fluctuates, but at the time he was watching Blippi. He's like, the building was moving. Oh, I'm gonna watch Blippi. It's like he was like nothing to him. And everybody was like
unbothered.
Yeah, it was like and I go, that's why I'm never moving over there. The ground moves.
Earthquakes. No, thank you. I'll pass on that too.
The ground moves. I can see a hurricane coming. I can see the ground move.
You can prep for hurricane and get the hell out of the area. You can't prep for a tornado, and you can't prep for a damn earthquake.
No, you can't.
And if you live near the water and you get earthquakes, now you got to worry about tsunamis.
Yep.
I'm good, man. I'm gonna.
It only goes 1.4 miles off the water, so
It only goes.
I was 1.5 from the beach growing up, so I always was aware of the water. It couldn't make it to me.
I got you. I got you. Okay, I got you. Well, that's
so where you're from. Before I know that I know it's not meteorology, guys. Just relax, okay? We'll get back to football. But I have a question for you. Since you're from California, so you're really, because of your location, you're not really in a threat for a tsunami.
No.
Okay, that's scary as hell, by the way. Those things scare me.
I would be scared. Luckily, no. The earthquake is because we got the San Andreas fault right there.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They're built on the fault line. Luckily, we haven't had a big one in 20 years since Northridge in '94. But they're always predicting the big one to come. Big for United States, not big for like South America or anything, but big for us.
Or like Asia, or something like that.
Yeah,
you got something like nonstop.
What was it, Indonesia or something like that recently? They got
a bad one too.
Something like that, yeah. Asia gets them. I feel like they get them more often than really any other region in the world.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Is there a more famous fault line than the San Andreas? I mean, that's they make movies out of them. That's The Rock, right? That's got to be the most famous fault line, literally on the planet,
it's
right?
Lucky you got the Actors Guild right there and everything in LA. So
yeah. Hopefully, man. Hopefully that stays nice and dormant for the foreseeable future for for the people there, because again, bro, California and earthquakes, man.
I know some people probably wouldn't complain if California got wiped off the map. Not right now. Well, not right now. I still got family there, but
more so wherever Gavin Newsom is standing.
Oh yeah.
But that's for another. But that's for another pod. That's for another pod.
We're talking football.
Moving on. The last player on offense we want to talk about, man, Tyron Evans. This is a kid at a position of need, like we talked about at receiver. Kid who was committed to Tennessee. A kid who is 6'3.5", according to 24/7, 200 pounds. I've seen anything. I've seen 6'3", 6'3.5", 6'4" with this kid, 200 pounds. A consensus 3-star. But a kid who, again, just another one that I can see really climbing in the rankings. Again, you're committed to Tennessee, committed to a guy like Josh Heupel. This is a guy who knows offense, so you have to like what you have in him. But somebody who Miami was after hot and heavy, and they pulled off the flip. But you look at this kid's film, man, it's impressive. It's impressive. Last year he averaged, I think, 27 yards a catch, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Playing against good competition from everything I've seen. So really excited. It sounds like the staff is to land this kid again, a position where the big names have kind of eluded them over the past couple seasons. I think the huge names, I think they've landed talent at receiver, because I think it's very evident if you look at the position group and the receiver room. There's a lot of talent in the room, right? I think there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of depth, just not a lot of experience. But this is a kid who you're adding, to the room, and especially, again, we talk about body types. A kid, at 6'4", that you really have to be excited about to add to the position group.
He might actually be a steal because last year in 2024, 36 catches, almost 1,000 yards receiving, and 14 touchdown receptions. So he might actually be a steal in this recruiting cycle for Miami, that we're able to get him and flip him from Tennessee. So I think Miami's got a really good one here. I think he will climb and be a 4-star, because I do expect him to have a better season this year for his senior season. So again, you like the height. He's about 6'4". Measurables are good as well. He's long. Again, a red zone threat, 50-50 ball situation. You could toss it up to him. He's able to make the play as well. And he's progressed throughout his high school career, and he had a really good junior year. And because the fact of lack of experience at the high school level, that's why he hasn't had his 4-star. But I think by the time he graduates, he will get his 4-star just on measurables alone, and even stats as well.
Yep. Yeah, you got to like what you have in him, man. A kid who you flipped away from an SEC program, a good SEC program, obviously, in Tennessee, and the position, like I talked about, man, the body type you have to be excited about, man. A kid who's 6'4", 200 pounds. He looks like a strong, sturdy, player. So, a kid who goes up there and gets it, is great after the catch, that you'd like to see at that size. Moves well. This isn't a 6'4" tight end looking kid. This is a true receiver, at 6'4". So you got to be excited about it, man. You got to be, you really have to like what you have in terms of the measurables. And, from everything, that I've heard and read, I mean, this wasn't a plan B, right? This wasn't somebody who's like, oh, we didn't get, fill in the blank, so we're going after Tyron Evans. This is a kid who they wanted, and they put the full court press on him. We're able to flip him from Tennessee.
And like you said, Heupel knows offense. If anybody knows offense, it's Josh Heupel. So if he sees something, you gotta think he's got something.
Yep. Yeah, definitely excited for this kid to join the class, man. So we're kind of wrapping up in terms of the June commits, right? And obviously, there's more than that, because like we mentioned at the top,
July 5th is the exciting one for
the
legacy for you guys.
And that's the thing, right? So that kind of leads me into into the July commits, and for all the excitement that there was in June, right? Especially the early part of June, the early to middle part of June. I think now the end of June, and now kind of leading into July, I think there's you hate to say cause for concern, right? Because we're looking at a top 10 class, right? They're at number 6 right now. They're in the running for a lot of guys, but you have to look at the position that we talked about, and a position that I know they want to emphasize at the D tackle position, right? And here recently, they've definitely lost out on some guys who I think for several reasons they thought that they were in it for, right? You start with Keyshawn Stansel, the kid from North Carolina. Really highly recruited kid, right? 4-star kid who committed to Clemson just recently. James Johnson, who is recently moved to Northwestern, and a lot of people were making kind of a big deal. He's a Miami kid, and a lot of people I think a little bit confused on that one. He's a kid who's from Jersey, played at where did he play at?
Fort Myers.
He played in Fort Myers, and just recently transferred to Northwestern. So he didn't commit to Miami, obviously committed to Georgia. Huge get, because by all accounts, this is the number one D lineman in the country. So it hurts to not land him. But for a lot of people that were saying, oh, they whiffed on him, or he's a Miami kid. He's not a Miami kid. Nonetheless, it does hurt based on the fact that he's now going to be at Northwestern, and he's a position of need when you look at the roster and what you're lacking at Miami. He's somebody who, for a lot of reasons, was somebody that they really, really wanted to land. It didn't work out right now, right? But we're looking at this being July, right? July just started. The dead period runs all the way through July 31st. Season starts right after that. And, if Miami goes on and has a good season, right, you have to like maybe your chances of possibly flipping him, come signing day. Mario has done that, right? He's flipped guys, in the early part of the recruiting cycle. He's flipped guys, around signing day. You look at a guy like Justin Scott, they flipped on signing day, if I'm not mistaken. They flipped Armando Blunt back from, he was committed, flipped to Florida State, flipped them back from Florida State. And they've done that, with numerous other recruits. So, again, while you don't want to have to count on, flipping guys, I think that's something that's always in the cards with a staff that recruits like Miami's does. And so, again, we'll see what happens. But, you're looking at a lot of these upcoming commitments, Derek Cooper, 5-star running back, from American Heritage, a guy who now he's delayed his Chaminade, excuse me, from Chaminade. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my mistake. And a guy now who pushes recruitment back, right? And we were texting about that, the other day, when he announced that. And you always kind of have to be a little bit weary, right, when you're the favorite, right? And, and he pushes back the commitment, right? But like we talked about, Jackson Cantwell did the same thing and still landed him. But there's a lot of commitments coming here kind of down the pipe, that Miami's very interested in. A lot of guys that they're in the running for, but not necessarily the favorites, at this point, in the recruitment. Has to be a little unnerving, based on the really strong June that they had, the trajectory that you assumed they were on. You figure that they'd be more in a kind of a position of power with these guys, but I guess we just kind of have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. I'm just glad we're in the running. You could say 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in the running for these guys in particular. I'm probably going to be doing an episode tomorrow on the whole Derek Cooper thing. I think that's huge because Miami was a slight front runner in front of Georgia. The fact he pushes commitment back, that's something that gets you thinking. But again, it's happened before. Cantwell's explanation was, I just want to get it right. So he gave Georgia one last shot. It's pretty much what Cantwell did. Cooper was a mystery. I'm not committing on July 12th, and that's it. It's like he's like, what happened here, dude? In general, so that's why a lot of us are like, what the heck happened? But you have Calvin Russell, a guy that's on the 5th. Bryce, Bryce Perry Wright, right? That's how you say it. That's
Bryce Perry Wright, who's the defensive end from here in Buford, Georgia.
Buford, Georgia. Yeah, so he's in line. He's committing as well real
Clemson,
soon.
Basically, Clemson or Miami is everything.
They got him crystal ball to Clemson, but what if?
Again,
We'll
you take it with a grain of salt.
Am I? That's Ray Lewis's nephew, I think.
He's. I don't know if he's officially his nephew. There's some kind of family connection to Ray Lewis, from what I heard, which, I guess in the grand scheme of things can't hurt, right? But a kid who I know they definitely want to land. There's
Heze Ken as well. He's one of my favorite recruits. Heze Ken is 16. It's Miami, Florida, Texas. I heard those are the big three that are vying for him as well. So that's a July commitments that we're thinking about.
Yeah, they're in the running for Brody Jennings, who is
Brody Jennings,
who's a University of Michigan commit, who by all accounts Miami seems to be, even though he's still officially committed to Michigan. I think there's a lot of smoke out there, for Miami. Staying in the Buford, staying just on the Buford High School football team. They got a kid by the name of Tyreek Green, I believe his name was a safety who. I know Miami wants. Georgia's, kind of hot and heavy after, So, man, there's a lot of guys out there uncommitted. Brett Koloje, I guess is officially how you pronounce his name. Best interior offensive lineman in the country, plays at IMG. Will be committing soon. So, man, there's a lot out there. It's a lot out there. Tristan Keys is another one who, again, committed to LSU, but a lot of the smoke is for Miami. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, a position where they want to continue to stack talent. But those two positions, man, receiver, D tackle specifically on the D line, and then maybe safety are positions that you definitely want to see them, start to land some big guys. I think they've got a lot of good defensive backs, but I think specifically as safety, I think you want to see them start to stack some talent, moving forward.
I wanted Minka's little brother, who by the way is now a Dolphin again. I wanted Justice. I liked what I saw. Yeah. Very versatile as a defensive back. Yeah, he picked Georgia, and I got trolled by a Bulldog on my show, and I told him it ain't December yet. The day after, he's like, "I'm shutting down my commitment."
Yeah, for whatever that means, man. Listen,
it doesn't mean anything anymore.
It doesn't, man. In this era, it doesn't mean anything. And listen, I'm not gonna pretend that flipping somebody, from a school like Georgia is going to be the norm, right? Those guys aren't, granted now they have, they've flipped Van Spafford and the whole deal. I think it's probably easier to flip a guy from Georgia at receiver than it is to flip a guy at DB, if I'm being honest, right? You look at their recent history, putting DBs into the NFL, and obviously, again, at all three defensive position groups, they're just producing talent. They don't produce DB like they do D-line, but they are obviously, putting a lot of guys in the NFL at DB. And so I think that's going to be an uphill challenge, right, to flip him from Georgia. But, listen, like you mentioned, man, it's not December. And I think anybody who Mario is after, you have to be wary of, if until that particular recruit puts pen to paper, it's not done. Mario is, by all accounts, he's one of the best recruiters in the country. He's earned that reputation. And I think, again, when you're looking at what you expect to be a good season at Miami with a new staff and everything like that, I think they'll put enough, on film to show that the trajectory is the right one. And I think that'll be attractive to recruits, come signing day.
Yeah, it's a battle. Miami always has that one team they battle with every recruiting cycle. The last couple of seasons, it was Ohio State. It just seems to me that this recruiting cycle, it's going to be Georgia. Miami has lost guys to Georgia. Georgia's lost guys to Miami, and I think it's going to be. I think Georgia's a school this year.
Georgia's on fire. Georgia's on fire. They landed. I think it was 14 or 15 recruits in June alone.
Yeah,
14 or 15 recruits, and all those guys, the majority of them were like blue chip guys. I think of the 14, 15, I think it was like 13 of them were blue chip guys.
Yeah, they've done very well. I was hoping to get James Johnson. James Johnson is a disruptor. If you look at the film, he's a guy that not just stops the run, but also gets to the quarterback. Similar to Lamar Brown as well, what I saw in terms of comparing the two. So that's one thing that one did sting. The smoke for Lamar Brown, by the way, was getting heated as well. As at one point he canceled a visit to LSU. I guess some pressure got to him, and he decided to take the visit anyway. So there was some heat for Lamar Brown. That's kind of fizzled out a little bit as well.
Also, his school is literally on the LSU campus.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's tough. Hard. It's hard not to take an official visit there, and I'm sure that if realistically, how many times has a guy been to LSU unofficially, right? Because
exactly.
He plays at Lab, right there in their on their campus. So listen, man, that one, so that one, that one they're still in it for. I've heard Texas A&M is a big player in that one. So we'll see how that goes. But there again, right? I think for
Miami or College Station, I don't know. I'd probably rather live in Miami than College Station.
Yeah, listen, and you don't want to make everything just the same way people do about Miami, right? About NIL, because I think Mario was a recruiter right before NIL. That had already been established. But I think when you're looking at what Texas A&M does in recruiting, right? They make no bones about having a lot of money to throw at recruits, right? So when you're looking at it being an attractive, option for recruits. Now, listen, I'm not taking anything away from Texas A&M. They're a good program. I think Mike Elko is building something good, sustainable there. Yeah. But let's not pretend. Yeah, 100%. There's nothing not to like about the guy. But I think you have to obviously touch on the fact that they are very well off in terms of money.
Yeah, that oil money's deep.
Yeah,
listen. And to pay Jimbo what was it, 68 million to
70 plus million to walk away.
Go away. I'm like, all right, you guys.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, when you can pay a coach $70 million to not coach for you, you're not hurting for money.
No.
Yeah.
You're not hurting for money. So
one more thing about A&M, the Tristan Keys thing, people expect him to flip because he just signed an NIL deal with Adidas.
Yeah.
And it seems to be what people project is a Miami versus A&M battle, because A&M is also an Adidas school, and of course they have deeper pockets than the University of Miami. Miami doesn't disclose. People think that Miami doesn't disclose what they pay the kids. That's what a lot of people that have opinions don't understand. Miami is a private institution. They don't have to say anything to anybody as well. But A&M is the one that's more open about, we'll throw you a bag. It's not a problem for us to the kids. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's known. It's just for some reason they only emphasize that when it's certain schools, specifically Miami, at the very top of the list, right? Anytime, like they and it's always been interesting to me, man, when you talk about like these on-3, NIL projections, the whole deal is like I would love to speak to somebody at On3 just to see like where they get these NIL, they call them NIL valuations, right? And when you look at all the recruits and everything like that, and you like next to their name, it'll be like NIL valuation, and it'll just some random number. I don't know how they come up with the numbers, to be totally honest with you. Again, I would love for somebody to explain to me what their formula is, because it doesn't seem like they're ever even remotely in the ballpark, of what these players are actually getting. So it's really interesting to me, again, when those numbers and projections kind of get put out and there's actual dollar figures attached to, recruits, specifically Miami guys, when there's really only, and I've talked about that in previous podcasts. I remember 2 instances where schools actually put out what they were paying players. The first one I ever remember was Nico Iamaleava when he landed at Tennessee, right? And me and Russ talked about that one. They announced it, 3 years, $8 million when he signed with Tennessee. And the next one I remember, and again, now there may be other ones. These are the ones I remember. And then Darian Mensah, who was the quarterback at Tulane, signed with Duke. He signed for 2 years, $8 million, and nobody's batted an eye at that. Yeah. Like the fact that Darian Mensah, the guy who literally, if you don't follow college football closely, you literally wouldn't know. If that guy came up to you and introduced himself and said, "Hey, I'm Darian Mensah," you wouldn't know who he was. And the guy's making $4 million a year at Duke, which is insane to me. But nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about it. Everyone's like, "Oh, Carson Beck of Miami's making $49 million," and you're like, how the hell did you come up with that? Like, where are you even getting that? Like, Once you talk about the numbers that are out there, they're concrete. Like, this dude is making $4 million a year. Nobody knows who he is. At least Carson Beck, people know who he is, right? But it's interesting to me.
Does it play? I mean, I know, Will, you mentioned that it's a private university, and that knowing baseball, and I love college baseball. Going for recruits at University of Miami, I know baseball has a hard time because it is a very expensive university. Does that play a factor with the football program as much as it does with baseball, with trying to get recruits?
So me personally, I know in terms of like the baseball scholarships, you got percentages.
Yeah.
Right. That's not so in football. Like in football, it's either you have a scholarship or you're a walk-on. Yeah. So it's a little bit different in terms of like your baseball scholarships, just because they don't work in percentages and everything.
11.5.
Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy to me. But no, it's either you're on scholarship or you're not. There's no in between. Yeah. So there again, man. The money, is always an interesting dynamic when it comes to. Especially football right now, it's become crazy. You're getting $1 million players in like women's softball and the whole deal. Look what Texas Tech just did here recently, and the whole deal. It's just insane, the money being thrown at, and good for them, man. Hey, if somebody wants to pay you $1 million to play softball, man, do it. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely, get your money. If they're throwing you that kind of bag, man, go ahead and just say thank you. You know what I mean? Because that's crazy. Like, who would have thought that at one point, we'd see softball players making $1 million+ per season. It's crazy.
Finally got a professional softball league too now.
I saw that. Yeah, man. Yeah. I saw that. But I guarantee you, and I don't, and the name escapes me. She plays at Texas Tech. She transferred in, and I don't remember what school she transferred in from. Again, my apologies for that one. But I know she was in the Women's College World Series. And they were touching on that whole subject, and they paid her $1 million to transfer. I don't know if she transferred from, it was like Texas or somewhere. And she got paid to go over there. And
a person who was trying to get paid to transfer, Lenoris Sellers. My stock in that guy's book goes way up for a guy who literally was paid to come to our, we'll pay you to get at the portal, and he's like, no, I'm going to stay with my commit. Yeah. I don't need the money. I'm going to stay with. I'm like, that's for a 20-year-old kid to say that. And obviously, his parents are probably playing a big factor. That's impressive.
Yeah. If what he's saying is true, that they offered him somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million to transfer, I was like, holy hell. That's insane. Just again, the numbers that they're talking about, and then you add to that, man, the tampering and all that stuff. It truly is, man. It's a crazy time in college football. And now with rev sharing and all that, man, I think they're gonna have to instill some rules. Either, who knows, man, that go to like a legal tampering period, do something. They have to enforce some type of rule, man, because it really.
I think what's going to end up happening is that college football, and only because a listener brought this up to me, is going to make these kids employees. That's going, because if you want to cap it and you want to put more restrictions on how they make their money, you're going to sooner or later turn these kids into employees.
And I've heard that angle. The problem is I've also heard the other angle, and I can't remember where it was that I heard it. I know it was a lawyer that was talking about it, and he was saying that if you officially make them employees, now there's rights and everything like that they have, that you're kind of on a slippery slope, calling them officially employees. So I don't know, man.
Either option is difficult, because if you want to cap it, you can't, because they're not technically employees. So that's one thing. If you make them employees, then you're giving the kids way too much power. Yeah. Way too much power, and then that also hurts the game as well. So I don't know where the happy medium is, to personally be honest.
The AD from Tennessee is trying to not making them employees, but collective bargaining. He's pushing for that to put a cap on it, stuff like that. But also, we brought up, Texas A&M obviously has got deep, and a lot of schools in Texas have deeper pockets than schools at Miami. They have deep. They're not on the same restrictions because of their alumni. So, does that make it fair? But, we're in the wild, wild west now for sure in college football.
Well, now and again, I know we're going to get, we're coming up on an hour and a half, and I know there's some stuff that I'm sure we'll make for
we did probably 5-10 minutes again, Q.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll probably get together coming up here soon, and we'll do something on the new landscape, right, and everything going on with rev sharing and everything like that. But I think that's part of the kind of the parity aim, right, is to make it so that the rev share money, I think it's going to be $20.5 million per school, and so I think that kind of is going to be really interesting to see. I'm sure the schools that we're at the top of the heap, right, when it comes to NIL space and everything like that, probably don't want to see that. Don't want to see that type of parity, right? Because they're obviously, they're very successful in the current landscape. It's going to be really interesting to see, what happens. I think it's just going to be, we're going to see what enforcement looks like, or we're going to see what kind of rights players have. We're going to see if they alter the transfer portal any, if they make it, just one window as opposed to two, which I think most college coaches want to see. There's going to be a lot that's going to have to be addressed, given this new landscape, and I think a lot of it is needed.
100%.
I think they want to get rid of the spring window, and that's the one I heard that they want to remove.
Yeah,
you have the winter one. Yeah, when it's basically the season's over, and then there's no spring where I signed with the school. I hate where I'm at. I'm gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see the new depth chart come out, and you're like, all right, I'm out. And so again, and I think obviously for very obvious reasons, the one transfer portal window is what coaches want to see. Especially when you're a school like who knows, like Florida State and stuff like that, where your players get poached or whatever, but. There again, man, I think, we can do a whole nother pod on what is, what isn't, and what could be when it comes to, the new landscape of college football, man. But
Q's rejoicing every time a player gets poached from Florida State, for sure.
I would never.
I do.
Are we, Bobby? We're allowed to cuss on this feed, or no? Do I have to keep it PG? No, man. Look, I make no bones about who I root for and who I don't root for. I've got several teams I don't like. Florida State being right there at the top of the list of teams I don't like when it comes to football. Born and raised in Miami.
Yep.
Went to many Miami FSU games, at the Orange Bowl, went to Doak. I've been to Doak a few times, been to Hard Rock, the whole deal. Very top of the list of teams I don't like. Florida State, sue me. It is what it is. I make no bones about it. My brother's a huge Florida State fan. He already knows how I feel about him. If you're watching, I got a middle finger for you, for your boys. But
I hate man, those too, man.
Yeah, so it's what it is, man. Yeah, it's how it goes, man. It's how it goes. But there again, man, we'll get to find out in the not too distant future, who's in a better position, Miami or Florida State. And, obviously it's going to start with Notre Dame. But, man, I think we reached the end, boys. Anybody else got anything before we get out of here?
No, you want to plug the rest of our stuff?
Yeah, man, for sure, brother. We, me and my boy Russ, man. This is obviously part of the college football blitz that we got going on FTSN Extra with my boy Bobby Finstock. The channel's got a lot of great content, a lot of great channels on there, man. Go and subscribe to all of them, man. We got Steve Malloy doing his thing. We've got tell me Lou from Dade and his wife. What's the name of the show they do? Will?
It's a SoFlo
Sports Show, right?
Sports show, yeah.
Yeah. So they've got a great show there. We got my boy Will. Who's part of the was it
Floyd Cats and Dirty Rats.
There you go. They talk Panthers.
Not cats, rats.
There you go. Yeah, there's a lot of.
They're a panther. They are a cat.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are the best cats.
But I'll get it right. It's Dirty Rats. My bad, Bobby. My bad. Yeah. Dirty Rats.
The best cats in the world. Your NHL champion, Florida Panthers. For all my people in Canada, kiss my ass. And my boy Russ has Russ on his
on
baseball
deck,
podcast.
Russ on deck's on deck. All things baseball. Wednesdays, Sundays. Talking all baseball. I'll talk Marlins if I, have to. I know there's not many Marlins fans out there, but I'll talk them.
There's like 30, 40, Marlins fans out there.
Hey, I got 40 views on my Marlins episode.
Yeah. Hey, they're on a nice little stretch.
A nice little stretch. Now, right?
One, I think 9 straight road games, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I've never
9 straight road games. So, very quietly are, they're we'll see, man. Obviously, they never have the payroll to really compete, but here we are. They just showed just for reference, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander signed his new extension, and he makes more. He's going to make more in 1 year coming up than the entire Marlins payroll for this season. So just
their payroll's like
just for reference, so you can see what they're working with or what they're not working with, I guess. But my man Will, let them know about your show, man.
Yeah, man. So if you like a little bit of everything, I cover a lot more Canes because that's where the audience is. But if you like a little bit of everything, I cover the 305 Sports Now. I cover the Canes. I cover the Dolphins. I cover the Heat. I cover the Panthers as well. Every so often, I do local MMA as well. I will be doing, like I mentioned earlier in the pod, if you were listening, I will be doing a bit of a story on the Derek Cooper pushing back his commitment. We'll be talking about that, what my thoughts are as well. And Q, July 5th, man. Special day, bro. 305 Live.
I'm with it, man.
Live.
I'm with it. I'm flying to so tomorrow I'm flying to Tampa. Be out there in Clearwater, like Indian Rocks area. But I'll have phone and or computer. Either way, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Send me the link.
So
I may be on live from you may hear some beach water in the background or something, but
that's how you got to do
it. I'll be in my hotel room as well because I'll be at the beach as well. I'll be in Pompano that weekend as well.
Yeah.
So I'll be in my hotel room.
Yeah, more than likely I may not be sober and I may be on the beach, but we'll make it happen. But
Yeah,
we'll
for those who don't know what I'm
happen.
talking about, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so Calvin Russell will be committing on July 5th. It seems to be in Miami, LSU, with whoever else battle because he's been very quiet.
His top three doesn't include Miami.
Oh, it doesn't?
He just put out a top three. It doesn't include Miami. It's Florida State, Michigan, and Oregon are his top three.
Oh, really? I didn't see the top three.
He just put that out. Hey, he just put out a top three. It didn't include Miami.
Oh, wow. Well, he may surprise a few people. We'll see what happens.
Not holding
We'll
my
see
breath.
what happens. Listen, man, it's like I'm giving it away. Even if he doesn't commit to Miami, I still don't think that recruitment's over. So that's a factor. It's not over. I don't think it's over. I just want to do it because he's a major player. He's a local kid. So we'll go live. We'll do that, and then we'll talk about what we think about Calvin right before he commits. Hopefully, it's not solely on 3, so they don't find a way to knock us off our feed. Hopefully, it's us. He has his little YouTube thing going on as well, so we can be able to share the feed and share the commitment, share the joy or disappointment with everybody. But like I said, no matter what, whether he picks Miami or doesn't pick Miami, his recruitment is not over. So he did put a top 3 out.
Who's this?
Calvin Russell. He did put a top 3 out.
No, yeah, that's what I said. He put out a top 3. Miami wasn't in it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see.
I said Florida State, Michigan, and Oregon.
Why would you go to Florida State, dude?
No idea, bro. No idea. Like, who's going to be your quarterback over there, bro? Stop. Can you stop already? Stop with the nonsense. Come on,
They
man.
picked up Oklahoma's reject. Oklahoma dropped that kid from his scholarship, and they picked up Oklahoma's kid.
Yeah.
And by the way, their NIL deal, I was listening to D-Money. Big shout out to Kane's Insight. Their revenue, their NIL deal is horrible. If you get hurt, you don't get paid at all. At all. So it's
getting ripped apart from all the little just the fine print and and their contract, stuff like that. Man, it's Florida State being Florida State, bro.
And I'll be very frank with you. I'll be very frank with you. They just picked up Jason Lopez, a kid whose family I know personally.
Mm-hmm.
They just picked up Jason Lopez. I'll be honest with you.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I did. I'll be honest with you. I think that was a Vance Spafford pick personally. But the bottom line is, whatever it is, but bottom line is, though, I don't see that one sticking. So that's just my take. I don't see that one sticking because of the revenue deal and Florida State's going to stick. Huh?
What is Florida? What is it? Tallahassee or something like that?
Trailer Hassy.
No, I know it's what's it? It's like Tallahassee or something like that because it's disgusting.
Oh no, it's Trailer Hassy.
Trailer Hassy. That's what we call it. Kane's World.
Trailer Hassy.
Trailer Hassy. They by the way, they call us a lot worse. If you look at their comment section, they call us a lot worse. So
listen, man, that place is good to go watch a football game and then get the hell out of there. You know what I mean?
So
there's nothing nice about that place at all.
So like I said, I don't see Jason's commitment sticking. And if Calvin Russell decides to go to Florida State, I don't see that one sticking either. Elsewhere, Michigan, I understand. Who's the other one?
Oregon.
I understand.
Of the 3, listen, you're gonna go play receiver at Michigan. Do you know what they do at Michigan? They run the ball.
Yeah,
they run the ball. Like that's what they do, and they throw to the tight end. That's what they do. Florida State, who are you gonna have throwing you the ball at Florida State? You're gonna go play for Gus Malzahn. Have you seen what that guy's done recently at UCF and the whole deal? Listen, now who knows? We'll see what happens this season. Who knows? But if you're looking at those are your 3 finalists.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Before we go,
say again, Russ. Say again, Russ.
Nike right there in Eugene plays huge.
Yeah, that does. But they do throw the ball receivers though.
I can see Oregon, right? I can see Oregon. I don't. Yeah, and it's so different recruit to recruit, man. Certain things matter to certain recruits more than they do to others. I don't know. But again, if you're truly gonna decide between those 3 schools and you're a receiver, I don't know how Oregon wouldn't be the pick. But there again, that's me. That's me from outside looking in. Obviously, I'm not the one being recruited. I'm not the one being offered money. I don't see that there's a very clear. There's a very clear delineation right there when you're going Oregon to Michigan, to Florida State. I don't see how Florida State wins that one, but there again, you don't know. You truly don't know where that kid's head is, what he's being offered, so on and so forth. Who the hell knows?
I like the tier on that.
Yeah, Florida State. See, look, I'm gonna put him right here where you can't see him. You know, like
really quick. One comment on Florida State. Jamari Howard is my former student. He was a top 10 recruit a couple of years ago, and he was hurt his freshman year. And he did say that the defense looks a lot better in practice than it did the year before. So we'll see. I don't expect Florida State to have 2 wins this season. I expect it to be a little bit better. But nonetheless, I don't expect them to basically challenge for the ACC. But I will be having Jamari on soon with his former high school football coach, Coach Joe Gross, who's been on the show. So he'll be able to give more information on that. But Jamari did say that the defense looks better. And I told him, joke around, you can only go up.
It's not I mean, bro, y'all won 2 games. Like, what? How do you not look better? You know what I mean?
That's what I told him. You can only go up. It's like, and he laughed about it. Because he's a nice kid. Then he's a hard worker. So when I get back from my vacation, I'll try to score things away with him. Yeah. So it could be on.
I hope Jamari has a great season, and then everybody else just kind of
Yeah, me too. I agree. I wish him the best until he plays Miami.
There you go. 100%.
That's about it. I wish him only the best.
That's it.
That's it. Only him.
And Castellanos better bring it. He's been talking a lot of trash here recently. So
he's like
he better be ready to play, because he's like, oh, Saban is gone. Alabama has no chance. I was running the ACC by myself, and that I'm like, wow, we're clearly looking at things differently. Thomas Castellanos and myself, we had different views on what was going on over there at BC. But hey, man, it's your story. You tell it how you want to, bro. Good luck. First game of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, boys, that's it, man. That's all I got. Anybody got anything else? We're good.
No, we're good. Just tomorrow, the Derek Cooper episode and my live feed with you on the 5th. That's it.
July 5th, man. Everybody tune in.
You're lucky you got Will there when you're a little drunk. I did an episode on deck. I'm by myself. I went out before. We were like seeing my niece. Everybody's seeing him drinking a little too much. And I get back on Sunday and I'm doing it. And I am just like crickets, like back and forth like this, looking at it. I text Bobby. I'm like, dude, that episode was absolute crap. I can't be drinking when I'm by myself trying to carry the show.
There's no structure.
No
discipline.
I was like, I thought I could come. I came back. I went on 7:30 Eastern. Thought I could come back at 6 and just rip out a couple notes, and I ended up falling asleep and taking a nap. I get there, I'm like, oh, I got like this much. I'm like, ESPN. Yeah.
That's how it goes, man. You gotta be careful.
You live and learn.
That's it, dude.
You live and learn.
You gotta be careful with the intake, with the alcohol intake before you get on.
So Q, on Saturday, drink lots of water, bro. That's what I'm gonna tell
you. Yeah. And my birthday's on the 6th, so there's no I don't know if I'll start early, if I'll make it the 5th and just kind of coast into the 6th. I don't know. Time will tell. We'll see. But
you got it.
But I'm sure it'll be a good time either way, man. So looking forward to it. But yeah, fellas, that's it. It's good to see you guys, man.
Oh, it's always great.
Definitely got to. Yeah, man. We gotta
get on with you guys. Always talking college football. It's always great.
For sure, bro. For sure. Always
complain about that.
Yeah, man. Always a good time, man. And again, as we get closer, we'll have some more info to fill the airways with, and a lot to discuss for sure moving forward. So, for my boy Russ, the other half of the College Blitz show, and my boy Will from 305 Sports Now, man, we appreciate you guys joining us today. If you like what you heard, do us all a huge favor, man. Like and subscribe to all the shows. Got some more, pods and more material coming your way here soon. Appreciate everybody joining us. Hope you guys have a great day.
Hey guys, bye.
Good night or good day.